when I lived in Santa Fe, there was this waiter and he was like fine looking. I don't know. He wasn't like ugly or hot. He was fine. Okay. So he was like
Average.
hitting on me and I was like, I was drinking a lot and I was like, he's like, we should go out on a date. And I was like, okay. So then all of a sudden he's like, oh wait, why don't we I'll just cook for you. Come to my place.
No.
And I fell for this one time. Okay.
Wow, you fell
one
for
time,
it.
but it got really bad. Cause I was just cause I never like dated like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but coming to your house first date is not a...
No, it was really bad, but it gets worse. Okay, so he lives up in the mountains, and it's like dangerous. Like driving up there, I'm like, fuck, it's like hard to get up here.
Just
Yeah,
watching the
hard to
bars
get
go
out,
off.
too.
So
your
then
phone.
it's getting darker and darker, and I'm like, I can't. He's like, you can't drive, and I'm like, I literally can't drive away from here. I'll fucking drive up a mountain.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you have to like stay over. So he's like cooking me, and he cooked me like just like spaghetti. Like it wasn't even like a nice meal. So I was like, oh my god. So I'm like trapped at this guy's house, and I'm like, I go to sleep. I'm like 22.
Did you bone him?
No.
Okay.
No, I was like so annoyed by him. I think I like made out with him a little. I was like in bed with him, like drunk, like made out with him a little bit, but I was just like, ugh. So he came out of the shower in the morning naked. And I'm just like, it's too annoying. Like there wasn't enough, not that he was like raping me or anything, but it was just like, there's just too many like things where I didn't have enough options in any of these situations, you know? Like, I mean, I guess I could have, if I had stronger boundaries, I could have been like, I'm sleeping downstairs, like, fuck you. I see this like weird plot or whatever, but I was too like,
Or driven home.
and I was always, it was bad. I'm a bad driver.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I'm a bad driver.
Okay.
Like it was just like really, and he psyched me out. He was like, I don't know. Like, and I was, ugh. So anyway, so then I don't want to fuck him or anything. And so he comes back and he starts like dry humping me. Oh. And he just comes on my stomach. He goes, do you want a smoothie? He goes, do you want a smoothie? He goes, do you want a smoothie? And
After he came on you.
right before. He goes, do you want a smoothie? And then he came on my stomach. I go, yeah. And he came on my stomach. And then he made me a smoothie.
That was really quick. The smoothie and then the coming on the stomach. Like, what's the transition?
He was like,
from?
he was humping. Okay.
Did he ask you, do you want a smoothie while he was humping you?
Yeah, he was like, do you want a smoothie?
Oh, I thought it was
While
like
he
a
was
cum joke.
humping you.
He actually made a smoothie?
It was both. I think it was two
Double
things at once.
entendre in the French style?
So then he comes on my stomach. I'm like so grossed out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just fuck this guy. Not like it just was like, ugh.
I feel cheaper just hearing
But also
this
just
story.
like, I can't believe I fell for, there were so many things I fell for. I'm always like with seeing like I was brought up Quaker. I'm always like, there's a good in everyone. I'm like, no, he probably didn't do this on purpose. Like my dad's like a little bit, he's not, but he's like a little bit, like he just doesn't think like a guy that way.
He's a little bit
So
gay.
he didn't teach me. Yeah, he's a little bit gay. Like he's a little
me.
gossipy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like, how men are too. Like you're
I
gay
know
and
how
like a
girls live,
fucking
too.
testosterone gay. Like I'm going to fuck your hard
But I
ass.
also understand what it's like to be a woman.
You do. But
Hell
so
yeah.
now you do now.
I get dick pics when I don't ask for them.
And you're like, this is weird, right? You're like,
people
whoa.
say something nice and I go thank you, and then they think that that's enough for a dick pic, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I said thank you. I didn't say can I see your dick.
I know, it's very weird, but it's cool
Yeah.
that you know.
Yeah.
You know it all. But so my dad never like raised me to like assume the worst.
Right.
So
Right.
I always assume the best, which
Yes.
is the worst thing to do
Yep.
when you're
Especially around here.
And especially when you're drinking too, you know. So anyway, so I have the smoothie, I leave, I go back down the mountain or whatever. And then this was my payback. I would go to his work while he was working, and I would just tell the story to his customers. I would just tell the story because that's always my payback. Is I'm just going to humiliate you with what you
Oh my
did.
God, that
I'm
is
just
so
going to
good.
humiliate you with what you did, and
Wait,
we're all
you
going
would
to laugh
go
at
to
you.
his restaurant on the
I
regular?
would go to his restaurant on the regular. I would sit next to in his section, and then so one time he comes over, and everyone's laughing, right? And he comes over and he goes, "Are you telling the belly story again?" I go, "You don't get to name the story."
Yeah.
The belly story.
That's what he tried to call it.
How funny is that? But that was good revenge. I humiliated him.
Oh,
at
that
work.
is the ultimate payback.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, well done.
A lot of effort, but still, I respect it.
I know.
You went to his work more than
It
once.
was a popular like outside bar, so it wasn't like.
Okay, so it was like a two
Oh, I
for
wasn't
one.
going to sacrifice the cool
Okay.
bar
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of him.
And Lord knows how many women you may have saved from the same fate.
Right. I mean, I don't know anyone would be as dumb as me.
You'd be
So
surprised.
it was pretty stupid. Well, honestly, you know what's so funny? The fuck you of being a girl in your early 20s is you don't know that guys usually don't want to hang out with you. Like, it's like in your head,
Yeah.
you're like, they like my personality, they want to hang out. Maybe something will happen, but it doesn't even occur to you that the maybe something would happen is the full reason they want to. It's so surprising. And I think when married guys hit on you, the surprising part, if you're innocent, like, because I was like even though I was like out there and drunk and stuff, I was still pretty innocent. I always would be so surprised because you look at them as like
There's like a force field around.
Yeah, like, oh, you're not, like, you're married, so you're not, this is just like a platonic thing. So when a married guy like leans in for a kiss, you're always like, oh my God, like, duh, you're a guy. Like, it just, and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Yep.
I'm so glad Etsy's taking this away.
Yeah, right. I wonder why
Etsy,
they're taking it away. It's like, it's not selling
this
that
is the
well.
worst game of Price of Right I ever played.
Let's just say you're like entertaining. Maybe you just like met somebody. You invited them up to your house in the mountains. They don't have any bars. They're going to stay there for the
You
night.
don't know how to drive.
You're trying to just
I'm
like.
so bad. I'm like, my fiance's Asian, and I'm like, I've got the driving down. Don't worry. I fit in.
Wow.
You're like,
bad.
if you're just trying to throw subtle hints out
Is
about
this a charcuterie
the
board?
sort of evening you have in mind, maybe it's
Does that
time
mean-
to buy a vagina charcuterie board.
I love charcuterie boards, but I don't want vagina in it. Wait, how is it a vagina?
Think about it, bro.
Oh.
I don't want people chewing.
Wait,
things
it's
that look like
carved.
badges.
It's carved like a. Oh, God, shut up.
The cornichons are the clit, you
I
see.
hate everybody in
By the way,
world
Etsy's
right
Etsy's just making me like so homophobic against lesbians.
now.
This is so
They really
obviously
are the
all
worst.
lesbians. This is like such arts and crafts lesbians are pissing me off right now.
I'm not as
I'm getting
offended.
mad.
I don't mind when people hate lesbians when they're girls.
You like that? I don't
A little
hate
bit. Little bit.
my friend. I talked to a friend of mine.
I don't like
who-
it when people hate gays.
I talked to a friend of mine who
I don't think it's fair.
I haven't spoken to her in such a long time, and in that time,
Because she's
she has
gay?
become a lesbian.
Oh, she switched.
I didn't know that. Like, I asked her, I go, like, are you, what? And she did have a deep voice, so I thought maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I think lesbians think I'm gay because I have I sound like there's like pussy juice in my throat.
I
But
didn't think of it like that
She
until
was
right
like,
now. Thank
she
you.
was like, well, you don't, she's like, you don't like lesbians, right? And I was like, what? No, I like lesbians. And I'm like, what was I saying 10 years ago? The last time I saw this girl, like, what was I like? What jokes was I not landing, by the way? But she was like, but you don't like when like a girl like has a crush, like a lesbian has a crush on you. I'm like, no, I like that. That's awesome. I like when people have crushes on me. But I was like, what did I say back
Maybe
in the
they
day
listen-
that made this girl fearful
Yeah.
that I wouldn't like her if she was a lesbian? That's crazy.
I mean, you do sound like you don't like lesbians.
This is the arts and crafts stuff is pissing me off.
Okay. Just,
And I'm tacky, but this is too much.
it is.
Hate
it
my
is.
charcuterie board, hate me.
It is. I don't know what it is about
That's just how I was raised.
lesbians being overly horny, but it offends me.
Cooter board.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's like you got meat on there, and you don't need to bring like weird vaginas into this. You know, like you can lick it, but let's just have charcuterie first or after. Like,
But don't bite. I don't want people biting down onto things.
yeah, like I
bite.
don't want a glass of wine, and then when I get halfway through the glass of wine, there's a dick sculpture in the bottom that's starting to stick out. Like I get it, dude. Like you want to blow me. Like get
It's just
off.
sex is like kind of on people's mind all the time. So when people do this, it's like overkill.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, people are already kind of, there's that undertone of,
yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I was thinking about? You know how, I don't know if you know this because you're not a female comedian, but you know, if you post
close.
anything slightly sexual, like anything, like if I said something about like babies being born, people will go like, oh, here's another female comedian talking about sex. And I was thinking about it, and everyone is talking about sex unless they are a like clean comic. Like almost everyone is talking about sex. Like
Yeah.
the reason I was thinking why is because back in the day we used to have so many common things, right? We were all watching the same TV. There were only a certain amount of channels. There were like so many things. There was no algorithm and stuff. So because the algorithm's giving us all a different like basic day,
Yes.
one of the only things we all have in common is sex. So it's like one of the only things that you can 100% connect to someone.
that and food.
That food, yeah. I mean, but it's like you can't even like, you have a skateboard audience, so you can say skateboard jokes to them. You can't just go to an Etsy convention and do skateboard jokes. Those lesbos aren't going to understand it.
I do. I can only do one skateboard joke, and it has to involve Tony Hawk because everyone knows Tony Hawk.